open this meeting of Arundel Town Council. Councillors will have the agenda in front of them, and the first agenda item 2640, apologies for absence. First of all, to receive apologies for absence, which we have from Councillor Fuller, Gilbert and Gray. So are we happy to accept those apologies for absence? Some nods around. Thank you very much. The second is the standing item, declarations of interest, 2641, 01 through to 05. First of all, to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest, to declare any other interest, to consider any requests for dispensation, to report any gifts of hospitality except below the value of £50, and to report any appropriate gifts or hospitality offered. Would anybody like to declare an interest any other of those 5 headings? Councillor Adams.
264706, Stanford and Aldi Food Bank. My wife is here to speak, so I'll keep quiet.
As you do when your wife normally speaks. Councillor Clark.
I work for Arundel School, which is 264606.
Okay, any other interests to be declared? In which case, thank you all. So the next agenda item 2642. The proposal is to approve and sign the minutes of the full council meeting held on the 16th of June 2026 as an accurate record of the standing order 12C. You have the minutes in front of you. Would anybody wish to comment on those? If not, I will propose that we accept those minutes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Quartermain, all those in favour? Councillor Champion, you look as though you're still reading.
No, I wasn't there. So
okay, thank you. I just worried in case you were going to make a comment retrospectively. In which case, then I will sign those off for you. Good. That's all here for you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that takes us on to agenda item 2643, public participation of interested parties. We do indeed have an interested party here that's already been mentioned under declaration of interest. Welcome. You are here to present on the food bank. Do whatever's comfortable. You can do that from sitting here, or you can stand, and obviously I'll then allow time for councillors to ask you any questions arising from the presentation. So welcome, just do what suits you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting me do that. So I'm actually not Mrs. Adams, I'm Anne Jules, and I'm the Trussell Trust's Arundel Food Bank Coordinator. And I want to speak in support of the item on your agenda. So Arundel Town Council approached the food bank a couple of years ago and asked us if we would be interested in coming to Fletton House as part of your vision to make this place a community hub. And the food bank has been thinking about that since. There's been lots of discussion, and our trustees eventually agreed that that would be a good idea. And on the 5th of May, I watched the online discussion that took place with the Estates Committee, and there was a presentation then from Sean, who is the manager of the Stanford and Arundel Food Bank. And at that meeting, there was lots of discussion, and there was an offer of the Oldwinkle room for our use. And it was said that then there would be a lease negotiation, and you'd come back to us for that consideration. But some time passed, and we hadn't heard anything. And I looked in again on the 8th of July, so some 8 weeks later, and saw that there had not been any progress, and there was then quite a lot of discussion then still around the subject, which sort of surprised me a bit. And it was apparent that not all the councillors had been aware of the discussion that had previously taken place. But now I understand from the clerks that there's been a proposal that a lease be offered to us for 2.5 years at £1 a year, but also with some legal costs attached to drawing up that lease. And what I want to do tonight is to say to you that for us, we need a longer time to be able to commit to having the food bank here at Fletton House. And I want to go through the reasons for that. And I know that this is probably for some of you, perhaps a repeat of what you may have heard already, but nevertheless, come back to me after if you want to ask some more questions. I'll just go through it really quickly what we do at the food bank. So in Oundle, we collect food donations from the supermarkets. This is weekly, but also from community groups. And we, at the moment, have a very small storage facility at the Oundle Methodist Hall, which is where we run the food bank. And so most of those collections go to Stamford, where we've got a much bigger storage space. And then we get back to Oundle what we need to store so that we can give that out to clients. So we store and manage a small amount of food here in Oundle, non-perishable food. We then welcome clients on a weekly basis to the food bank who are referred to us by various agencies around the town. Obvious ones would be the doctors or the school or churches, but there are many agencies who can refer to us. And people come to us who are usually pretty desperately in need. In Oundle, there is a significant amount of poverty and hardship, and people sometimes have difficulty in admitting that, but nevertheless they do, and then they refer to us and they come, and we're able to sit down with them, chat through what the difficulties might be over a cup of tea, and we've got citizens advice who then can perhaps give more targeted help. And then we pack up food parcels for them and off they go. So we need more storage space. We need a more relaxed environment. I don't know if you've been to the Methodist Church, but it's very nice down here in Fletton House. There's a sort of cafe style vibe going on down there, and it's a comfortable place for people to come, have a cup of coffee, sit in. There are lots of little places you can sit and have a chat. It's a nice place to be. It's central and it's accessible. There are lots of services around. There are more services being offered in the library now, and of course there's the doctors, and it's actually more central to where people live. Fletton House provides all those things. But we have a large number of volunteers, and as I've just said, there are a significant number of people in Oundle who use our service. But it is a relational organisation, and as such it needs consistency and stability, and it's something that can't be moved easily. So I would say to you, we've been 10 years in the Oundle Methodist Hall, and I would say to you that a lease would need to be something more approaching that, so that we can have that stability and that consistency for the clients, for people who actually find it very difficult to come to us and accept the need or the help that we have to offer. So I put that to you. Thank you. So any questions?
I was going to ask my councillors, thank you very much for that. I was going to say, are there any questions? Well, I can see that James has already got his hand up. So James, you start with the first question.
So can you tell us where the food bank is in terms of preparing to move, how quickly you would like to move, how quickly you actually need to move?
Yeah, I can. We have talked with our volunteers, and so they're all aware that this is something that we're hoping to do, and they're keen. You know, we've come to look at the space here, so that everybody is keen to move. Obviously, our clients will need to be told, but that's the last thing we will need to do, because obviously once it needs to be done, it needs to be a done deal before we talk to our clients about the fact that they're going to have to go somewhere else. And also, obviously, there are a lot of people to inform. Referrers will need to know, but obviously we can't do that until we're here. There are logistical things that need to be done. The room needs to be prepared, so it needs to be racked out, and food needs to be moved. And the racking, for instance, I've looked at the room, and we'll need to put privacy film on the windows. But not much more needs to be done than that. So it's about racking the room and moving the stuff. But I mean, that's a weekend job. But to move food, not the racking. So we had been hoping to move towards the end of September.
Any other questions? Sorry, Councillor Chapman.
Roughly how many people on average would come to the food bank each week?
It varies greatly, and the size of families varies greatly. So it can be anything up to 4 or 6 a week. And sometimes that might represent a couple of dozen people.
I have one question, if other councillors do not. You talked about putting something on the windows and racking. Is that something that you would do, or do you see as expected?
And that's something we could do.
Just a clarification. Oh, sorry, Val.
Is there any fresh food, or is it all cans and boxes?
It's all non-perishable, so there's no fresh food, although we do, at the moment, we offer eggs and cheese. But obviously at the Methodist Church, we can nip into town and buy eggs. So they're quite good, have quite a short shelf life. But I understand that we could store some blocks of cheese, which are pretty nutritious. We could store some blocks in the fridge. I understand there's space for that.
It's not secure.
No,
because it's in that huddo. But
that's that's a risk that we're happy to take. But no, and we have a prescribed shopping list, if you like, that's set by Trussell Trust. We don't give sort of random food. So we aim to give a balanced diet, if you like, for 3 days. I mean, it's tricky when it's just cans and packets and things like that. But we aim to do breakfast, lunch and dinner for 3 days.
That's the amount of people.
Yeah, that's the amount that people will come and have.
And can I just, for my own sake, clear about it? At the moment, they collect in the church and the Methodist Church. Or is that stopped?
Is this food?
Collecting the food and distributing it.
At the moment, it's distributed from the Methodist Church. Yes, the Methodist Church Hall.
Right.
Yes, yeah. But it's collected from our main collection point is Waitrose,
Right.
but the co-op,
So basically, it's all one lot of people.
one lot of people. Yeah.
That's what I wasn't sure of.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Rob.
Just one question. Is there a minimum term lease that makes this viable for you? I know you said you head toward the 10 years, but is there a cut-off below which it's not viable?
Do I want to say that? I'm not sure that we've talked about a minimum term. It needs for us to be as long as possible. 2.5 years certainly would not be enough. I'm not sure it would be sensible for us to move for that sort of length of time.
Okay. I think those are all the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So let's move on. We are now on to agenda item 2644, which was consideration of requests from interested parties. And here, I think we're potentially a bit of a pet stick, if I may say so, because if you look at the minutes of the Estates Management Committee, which we will come to later, it says, quotes, it was agreed that the EO would go back to the food bank and offer a 2.5 years at the previous agreed annual cost and establish if this term would be acceptable to them before instructing the OTC solicitor to prepare the lease. So essentially the Estates Committee have already agreed a term or offering a term.
Well, I think that's your key word, is
Yeah.
that the
I'm
Estates
just
Management
reading out what it says in the minutes. So I will see you chaired the meeting. So an offer of 2.5 years has already been made. And I believe Lisa has been instructed to establish if the term will be acceptable to them before instructing the OTC solicitor to prepare the lease. Essentially, what I have just heard from the presentation in answer to a question is that that is not acceptable to them. So we're back where we started. Councillor Chapel.
Well, I noticed it appears later in the agenda, so are we going to bring that item forward and discuss it now?
Well, it's slightly different because
I
the
appreciate that
the
what
minutes
was
of-
on the agenda suggested something, but that's simply something that a committee of this council has suggested. It was a Stockport Council taking a different
absolutely
approach, and there might be a potential different approach that I could suggest.
I'm not suggesting that we bring forward the minutes of the Estates Management Committee because that's there for information anyway.
Again, I was
just
thinking of item
drawing,
264706.
I was
which
just
is the
drawing
actual-
people's attention to the fact that that decision will already be made by the Estates. Absolutely. But as you rightly say, council can, particularly in the light of what we've just heard, make a separate recommendation. The other thing, sorry to go on about the Estates Committee, it also says in the minutes, it was agreed that a parallel process should establish a policy around lease arrangements in terms of cost and length of term, etc.
Can I just establish whether we are following the agenda or?
Well, I think we are, because are we not on consideration of requests of interested parties?
Well, the trouble is, it also appears later on in the agenda, which was my point earlier. Are we going to discuss 264706 now, whilst the representative is still
Sorry,
with
in
us?
which case then, I withdraw what I'm saying. I'm just confused by the agenda, in which case then, let's move on and we can discuss it under the later agenda. Thank you.
This is a point of order, so that our good friend in the public doesn't sit here through a lengthy meeting,
Yes.
only to be disappointed later. Might we be going to discuss the terms of the lease in public or in private? Because if we're going to discuss it in private, then there's no point in
We,
public meeting.
again, the precedent is that we would always discuss it in camera.
Was this particular item discussed in camera in Estates?
I believe so.
If it wasn't, then I don't see a reason why it should in this meeting.
Sorry, I believe it wasn't Cameron, so.
It wasn't. It was. Okay. Okay.
You
Well,
said
that's
that
if
without
that's the case, then it will be here. Yeah. If that's the case, then it will be here.
So in which case then, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item and we will discuss it in camera when we get to that point.
Could you just explain to Anne what that means in camera?
It means that it will be discussed without any public observation, either in reality or virtual.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. I'll recognise it.
Can I just say, I believe it was discussed publicly last time, because you said you saw it, you viewed it.
I viewed it, but I did not see on the now I'm using the word camera in the wrong context. I didn't see the terms of the lease discussed online. No, so that must have been discussed at last time.
Okay, yes,
Just
sorry.
looked at the estate committee meeting minutes, and I can't see that it was actually held in camera. The application agreement was held in open discussion.
That's the way I read the minutes as
The
well.
minutes do not say meeting closed.
Yeah, so it wasn't in camera.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't in camera, it was discussed.
Mm. So I would say if it was discussed publicly there isn't a reason for you to discuss it in private here.
But that would presume that the minutes are recognised as a true record of the meeting.
That's true, which we have not yet agreed. Councillor Chapman, then I'm going to move on.
Bearing in mind that what we might discuss might be different in nature stroke structure to what was discussed before, it seems to me to be potentially entirely possible to have a discussion now that is in camera, even though we didn't have one before.
You must also be aware that you cannot discuss any financial matters in closed session. So
You can discuss it.
there
You
is
can't reach a
a
decision.
part of that proposal that is asking to potentially waiver legal fees. You can't discuss that in closed session. That needs to be open to the public.
I am going to. But thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I am going to move on and we will broach the subject when we come to it. So, without further ado, 2645 Town Matters, 4501. To agree to send a letter of congratulations to the volunteers with more than the BAM. Again, you will have seen the notification about this, and there is a suggestion that we send a letter of congratulations. I am more than happy as mayor to sign such a letter, Councillor Chapel.
And so you should. And that's a proposal that we need.
Right. So, do you all want to propose on that?
No, if everybody's happy, then
That's the only reason why I shouldn't. The only thing I would note, it would be nice if the town council had been notified in advance that this was going to happen in St. Peter's, because then certainly Lions Mayor would have attended. To discover retrospectively from the other, it's a bit.
yeah, I wasn't aware of it, not
Yeah,
until I
that's
think
what I mean.
Mike sent me the email.
I think we should have been made aware of it, but I will send a letter of congratulations. Thank you. Next amendment agenda item 2645-32, to receive a letter from UK Town Culture. This is for information only, and information is as application has not been successful in terms of moving to the next stage. I don't think any of us should be overly surprised by that. I'm just going to offer Councillor Quartermain very quickly a chance to say something since he helped to prepare that. Would you like to say
It
anything?
was not a surprise considering the vast amount of towns that actually did apply for it. Corby did move through, which I think says everything. That's
Yes.
that.
Okay, any questions on that? In which case I will move forward to 2645-03 to receive an update from Northants Retail Line Partnership. We have had that update. Does anybody want to comment on that? That is only for information only. If anybody wishes to raise any questions or comment, now is the time to do it. Councillor Evans.
I think generally it seems to be going quite well. And there was certainly some mention of 9 businesses have signed up for it, or something like that. My only question is that when it comes to the renewal of it, so therefore probably we need to think about it at budget time, if the number remains at 9, how much is that individually? Because that might be less than £1,500 we committed to it. So I'd just like us to be informed prior to the budget now, how much is it versus the 1,500? And clearly it would be nice for more than 9 to do it up. So if there's anything that can help promote that, I'm sure we'll do so.
Okay, thank you very much. In which case, let's now move on to council matters. 264601 received the mayor's report. I intend to give these reports verbally unless people feel that it is better, simply because I think it's more efficient to give a report verbally than to write something out, give it to Emma, to put it on the agenda and everything else, particularly since the reports are primarily a list of meetings that I have attended. And the list since we last met looks like this. On June 17th, I attended an event organised by the Cricket Club as part of their bicentennial celebrations. On July the 5th, I gave out numerous prizes at the Amble Horticultural Society show. On July the 16th, I attended the AGM of 2nd Amble Scouts Group. And this afternoon, I attended a meeting. I'm not sure whether I was there as chair or whatever, but I was at a meeting of the QVH, which was very interesting and jolly. If there are any other questions on any of those meetings that I attended, I will endeavour to answer them. If you will prefer me to do it in writing, I'm happy to do that. It's just that I actually think it saves everybody's time. I just think a verbal report.
You might argue that you spent 3 minutes with 14 councillors member in this meeting rather than to read it out the letter and take 1 second to say, I've done it. Any questions? Just a comment.
Okay, so that's a recommendation to do it in writing. Okay, thank you. I will take that on board. In which case then, let's move on to the Clark's report, which is a written document. Thank you very much. Emma, would you like to say anything in relation to your report?
Not really. If anybody's got any questions, just one. Although no, that's for later on. It's okay. I'll mention that later.
So in terms of questions, Councillor Wade, go on.
So I've got three points. First one is 26/13/11 and the strategy review. I'm guessing no action has been taken on that, and it's almost getting too late because if we have it in September or October, we're halfway through the year.
I thought at the annual meeting it was agreed that we would look at it annually.
Yes, but it was also recommended to look at it in June. So it's too late for this year. I'm hoping that it will get.
Sorry, I don't understand.
We haven't reviewed the strategy. We said we review it every year. That was agreed in
May.
We haven't reviewed it since. The recommendation was that we try and get an external facilitator. Has any action been taken on that?
I don't recall that. Sorry.
Okay, well, it might be worth looking back at the proposal that was agreed.
Can I, before you go on to your second point, John, because I had a question that was very much in line with that. Again, my question was whether we should be doing something before May 2027, because my understanding is we should. But then my other point was whether it's you as the person that kind of initiated the strategic response, or whether I as mayor should be part of that process. And I wasn't sure about that.
So the recommendation, as I recall, what I could read it, was that the clerk organised a facilitator.
Oh.
So,
Sorry.
Right. Sorry, John, then back to you. Thank you for that clarification.
Second point, 25/193/04 staunch application or consideration for donation. I think at the last meeting there was a general sense that that shouldn't be done, so should we now take that off the clerk's report because no
Can do.
action is going to be taken on that. And the final point, 25.110/2, liaison with the school, the provisional date has been set for 10th of September, 2:30. Max has responded, so you can make it, James. I'm still waiting for you to respond. But I've gone back and confirmed it, so I hope you can make it.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any other questions? If not, I just have one, which is actually in relation to 25.150/01. That would mean Rivers Trust, where it's not quite clear what the timeline or whether there's anything to do on that. And Ian, your initials are against it. Is there anything you want to help us out?
The last I heard from them was a month or so ago, and they were having trouble with the ownership, as everyone else has done, of the little strip at the end of Smart Meadow. And I haven't heard from them since. So, ongoing, I suppose.
Is there anything we can do to help support that? Or?
I don't think so. I think I emailed the Grocers Foundation again a month or so ago. He was going to check something and get back to me. So it's same old thing.
Well, again, if there's anything that I can do to support that in very my mayor chain, then let me know. James, is that a feeling in that?
It is. Can I congratulate the clerk, and would the clerk like to inform the full council, estates having been informed about the disposal of the van and how much we got for it?
Yes, the van has gone, and we got about 4,800 excluding VAT, because obviously we had to pay VAT on it. So the actual, I think we got 5,900, which was incredible.
Okay, so the other part of the council report is to do with the correspondence. I don't think there's really anything to be said there unless people have got specific questions. All that seems to be in order. And the crime stats again, which are primarily there for information. So unless people want to ask any burning questions about that, I will move on to 264603 to approve council membership of the Annual Town Council and Flettonfield Association Working Party. Do we actually have a proposal as such? No. So in which case, let me give you some background that might help. So this working party was formed shortly after OTC took ownership of Flettonfield, where clearly the Flettonfield Association have been incredibly active from a number of years leading up to the transfer over to OTC of the field. And in order to facilitate decision making on aspects of Flettonfield, it was decided to create a working party with representation both from OTC and Flettonfield Association. This has a term of reference. However, it's become clear, it's not entirely clear how members from the council are voted into that. Previously, the council had been represented by Councillor Chester, Foreman and myself. My understanding is that I was there as chair of the Estates Committee, although that's not explicit within the terms of reference. So what we need to do is to elect 3 members going forward to represent OTC on that committee. And my first question is primarily to the 2 I already mentioned, Councillor Chester and Councillor Foreman, whether you're prepared to continue as members of that working party.
Do you want an answer to the question?
I think so, yeah.
That could Well, exactly. I'm happy to stand if nobody else wants to, but I'm totally happy to stand down and we'll start again with a free vote. If you like.
I'm happy to stand again.
So we have two people willing to stand. Do we have a third person that would like
Can I
to?
ask you, Max, if you'd be prepared to continue to stand?
No, I won't. I'm not prepared to stand. Unless I'm not going to put my own name forward. Personally, I think it should be the chair of the Estates Committee, because it then creates a clear link to the Estates Committee. But that's not my personal decision, is it? If the chair of the States is not willing to stand, then I'm looking for somebody else to put their name forward.
If it would assist the chair of the States, I'd be very happy to propose it. If not, I think there might be an argument for saying that the States should discuss this at the next meeting, because I do think it should come from the States rather than the wider council.
Yeah, I think the reason it's been brought here is because obviously the next meeting of the FFA OTC Working Party predates the next Estates meeting.
I'm happy to second Councillor Affleck if he wishes to accept the challenge.
Yeah, why not? In which case, then I believe we have been called. Thank you very much, James, even if you feel you've been slightly pressurised. Just to underline what we're proposing are councillors Affleck, Cheshire and Orban. Are you all happy with that? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's move on. The next agenda item is to consider updating the OTC procedure for annual community awards. And again, there is a written proposal on this. I'm slightly confused because I'm not clear who has put that forward. There's no. Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to? Yes. would you
Yeah,
like to-
I'm happy to do so too. We met on 21st of April, very long meeting we had, and right at the end of that meeting, we discussed the nominations for the community awards and the Hawking Award. I don't think there were the Hawking Award, but there would be a nomination. I certainly felt that the conversation as to how we review those nominations and then choose the awards was modelled to the extent where I don't think anybody understood, if we're really honest, how many awards should be given in any year. And they got the objective criteria for assessment of those awards. The point had been made at the time when we then decided to prevent it that being put forward, that there's no financial burden of this, and actually it's a very visible recognition of community impact and your. And it just struck me that perhaps we needed a broader discussion before we then come back to some proposals as to how we might tighten that process up for next year. Because when we see people receiving the awards, and as I've tried to do so, it just seemed very disconnected to the somewhat chaotic process of actually deciding who gets an award. I also felt it's a chance for us to connect the award process with people who are in line with our vision of Arundel. So some sort of objectivity that allows us to ascertain who should be getting awards. So,
Okay.
was there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll invite questions, but again, just to kick off any discussion that we have. Thank you for that, Rob. I would agree that what we certainly mustn't do is repeat the rather chaotic discussion that we had, as you rightly say, when we were proposing awards last time around. If it helps matters, I'm quite happy to work with you and the town clerk in order to bring a formal proposal to council in September with a very clear set of criteria process. I'm not sure it's entirely broken, but we clearly need to clarify a few criteria and process issues. I don't think we can do it within a meeting here. We need a full proposal in front of us in order to do that. So in order to move things along, if people are happy that I work with Rob and Emma or a member of staff internally to do that and bring a paper in September, I'm happy to do that. Is that a solution acceptable to you, Rob?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, in which case then thank you for that, and let's move on to agenda 264605. Consider the invitation of the 79th NCAL AGM and agree to delegates to attend. Again, I'm sure councillors have read this. You will have seen that the meeting is in October, the first Saturday of October, and the emphasis here is on planning. So I'm particularly looking to the chair of the planning committee. He would like to make any recommendations about nominations for that.
Just planning ahead with them.
I appear to be there. Yeah, all right.
They are allowed to have two. Normally I would put my own name forward. I do already have two engagements that day, including a ticket for the Bio Tapestry, which is worth its weight in gold. So I would welcome another nomination. John.
I'm going to nominate Emma or whatever.
Yeah.
To go, simply because the clerk. So I should say I recommend the clerk is the second attendee because the clerk is in the 3 weeks after. So the clerk should attend as the second member.
I'll be happy with those two proposals. Well,
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
I did kind of see her nodding, and she wasn't grimacing.
And Councillor Fuller also attends because he's on the committee. So
So, well, he hasn't mentioned it tonight.
Are we happy with those two nominations? Okay, thanks very much.
I'll get those booked in then.
Okay, the next agenda item is 264606. What the six is there? To discuss and agree ideas for community jobs or projects for the 200 teenagers for the annual school field weekend to be held on Sunday, the 4th of October, which is the day after the NCAL AGM. I don't know if it's just me, but I've not seen a paper on this. I don't know where this has come from.
It's come from. Did you send it, Mike?
Yeah, the school have a representative, and that person has to do something with 200 teenagers on that date. I mean, I spoke to James about the courthouse roof, but that's a step too far.
I think they did it last year, but it was all very. I don't think we found out about it until last minute. Yeah.
Councillor Clark.
So the field weekend happens twice a year, and the CCF go off and shoot each other, and the community action teams stay in Albion. They do stuff, and they do main cup days or community action, this and the other. And I don't know anything about particular kind, but they're clearly looking for sponges to absorb people. So I suppose Fleming Field might be something that could be involved. And we were talking earlier about trying to get the photography team involved, helping populate that.
I'm going to take Councillor Wade first, and then Councillor Portman.
There's a lot of bus charities that need a bit of attention around the town. Brighton town a lot.
Yeah. Councillor Portman.
Yes, just going on to what Councillor Clark was saying, we have a need for good images of vandals. So if there's a photography group within that, it would be great to be able to set them off and see what we can do with that.
I'm not sure where the limits are in terms of health and safety and other issues about what we can actually realistically ask.
They would normally be staff. So I don't know the exact proposal, but every event will have staff attached to it, so it's probably finding something rather than provide a solution.
Right, sorry, that's you.
Rather than that's what it is, I think it's a health and safety issue, that would be a management decision for organisers.
Yeah. So we were just essentially putting forward ideas, and it's up to them to decide what's within that agreement. And thank you for the clarification. Well, one thing that's often discussed here is litter and bins. I don't know whether or not they could help out with that.
So just sorry on that basis, there's already a group that does litter picking on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
At 8 a.m. The Lord's people.
So in terms of the process,
I don't know if they consider graffiti removal, but we can't. There's plenty of that.
can I, in order to push this forward, it's I think quite difficult to have this kind of discussion here. What I'm going to ask is, when do the organisers of the Allen School Field Weekend need to know what our suggestions are? Is there a date by which we need to let this in? Ian?
It'll be the beginning of September, but the person who's organising it has just moved position, so the new person will be.
Right.
So they probably won't give it any attention between now and the beginning of September. But I'm happy with the early stage.
I was just wondering whether or not, given that it's still some months away, whether or not people could send ideas to Ian for him or Mike, I don't know which one is taking a lead on this, but either of them, so that then he could put them together and send them forward to the coordinator. It just seems that we need to coordinate a response. And we hope we need to have time to think about what those issues might be.
Yeah, just following on that, once we have that in place, I think it will be useful that our social media group are informed of what, make sure they come in photography or do some articles about that. So it's a very positive social thing that's going on.
Well,
And we can liaise with the school with that.
I agree, and we could also then use it to inform the discussion for future times as well, rather than having this a bit of a nebulous discussion every time it comes up.
Fully agree we should do it in school first, because it's not our event, it's their event.
So, in which case then, can I ask councillors to send any ideas they have to Ian Clark by, Ian, what would be a good date for you? Pick a date.
August the 12th.
August the 12th. Okay, thank you very much. In which case, let's move on to agenda item 264607. To consider installing air conditioning on the first floor of Fletton House in staff offices and VA offices. I assume this is coming about due to the temperatures that we've been experiencing over the last month or so. Again, is this from you?
Well, yes, it originally came from VA, and they asked if we would consider them getting air conditioning in their office. And at that point, I think they were thinking that they would pay for it. At the same time, my office was 32.5 degrees and we were all nearly collapsing. So I thought, if I'm going to put it on the agenda for volunteer action, I'm going to suggest it for our offices, because particularly this one, it gets the sun all day. It's got 4 windows and the sun just beats in, and it was getting quite bad. And now I know it's different now, it's cooler, but it made, I just thought you might want to consider whether we did look at having air conditioning, and because I know the company that installed solar panels,
Yeah.
whether we could have it connected to the solar panels.
Okay, well, we've heard that from town clerk, and I'm sure she can maybe speak on behalf of volunteer action as well. We've been asked to consider this. I think what we've got to agree first of all is the principle of whether or not we feel it is an appropriate request. And I assume that if we were to agree that, then the next step will be to investigate quotes, etc., etc. But let's first of all consider it. I'm going to take Councillor Clark first, then Councillor Chapel, and then Councillor Wade. Thank you.
I discussed 2 or 3 years ago now we're getting some blinds on those offices as well. And it might be that's something we should consider as well, some passive work. And on the same basis, we'll be working with air-to-air heat pumps that might come up tomorrow. But there was a big conversation in here from transition and talking about ways of heating and cooling. Ex-councillor Hutton strongly advertised the power of an air-to-air heat pump. They're more efficient and they cool. So those two things together might be cheaper than all in terms of energy consumption and air conditioning.
Thank you for that, Councillor Chapel.
Councillor Clark's vaguely stolen my thunder, because I was going to suggest that we looked at this more holistically to look at other options, including the sort of things that you talked about. And I think we should progress that and get at least an idea of costings without necessarily indicating that it follows as might follow today that work can be done. Not least because it's not in the budget, and I suspect it might be quite expensive. It might make it a bit cheaper to do over the winter months. I think an awful lot of people are thinking in terms of when it gets to the winter, we'll put an air conditioning because this sort of things don't keep it out.
John.
I'll start by copying what Councillor Chapel said, which is he still not what I was going to say, which is without a proposal, you can't make a decision, but any proposal should include things like temporary air conditioning, blinds, the heat to air pump. And I'd like to know what the temperature, I'll go back to title. I'd like to know what the temperatures are between those offices, including the other office. We don't have the budget for it this year. I agree it's likely to be expensive. If we are going to do it, we must do it before next year, I suggest, because I don't think the comments are cooling. But we need a proposal before we can consider it. I'm prepared to consider it in principle, but please let's have the proposal include all the options that are available rather than just air conditioning and light.
Councillor Adams, and then I'm going to move on.
I was just asked for clarification, if VN want air conditioning and they want to pay for the road, because if they do and they want to pay for the road, I think we can consider that next time as a standard item.
Sorry, James, I didn't realise your hands was up.
So, yes, if they want to do things within their rooms, that's a different question, not quite so much for us in general, except that it will use the electricity. So, given that we've had all the conversations about what should happen when different tenants within a different building use differing amounts of electricity, what do we do about that? So that's a whole other thing. But we've just spent, and we're spending the next 2 months in the States coming up with a coherent plan of maintenance, investment, and whatever else. I would not support making a point decision on a significant nature in putting future environmental mitigations into this building, whilst ignoring the fact that the play park needs refurbishment, that the courthouse needs a new roof, blah, blah, blah. So, do I support in general, considering the whole of the Hamilton Town Council estate and the mitigations that might be necessary for future climate? Absolutely. Do I think the whole council should be making a point decision on this one issue? No. I think it should come back to estates as part of the estates might be.
Okay, right. In which case, I'm going to try and sum up and in fact, James has already said some of what I was going to try and say in my summary. We don't have a proposal in front of us, we've just simply been asked to discuss and consider the idea of having air conditioning. I think I would sum up as follows, that essentially I think we're going back to you, Emma, and your staff, to ask you, should you wish to develop the full proposal along the lines that has already been outlined here, which would first of all consider options about what type of air conditioning or pros and cons of each are. I think, I'm very mindful that we like to see ourselves very much as a green council. We've done what we can with solar panels and other things, and I think that would need to be taken into consideration. Then, should you develop a proposal, that needs to go back to the states rather than full council. So I think that's my summary of the discussion.
But in the meantime, if I go back to VA and say, put together a proposal, the states will consider it.
Again, that would, I think, need to go back to the states.
Yeah.
The states will be mindful. The issue is, if they're paying for it, it's their money, not the state's money. But I think what we would need to be mindful about is the extent to which ethically any proposal that they bring forward fits into the ethos of what we're trying to do as a council. But that's for the states to decide.
It was supposed to go on estates, but it didn't. That's why it's here.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think it was fair for it to not be until September,
No, I
because it could be
appreciate
freezing
that,
then.
You,
And you'd
you've
all say,
asked us the question, I think you've got the answer. So, Ian,
Just if it was going to the States, I'm sure the States would look at it. If a tenant were to put something in that uses a lot of electricity, we've had experience of in the past,
yes.
we would need to, I would imagine, consider those to reflect.
Yeah. Very quickly, James, because I think let's move on.
I think the new leases do have the section that says where a tenant is responsible for a spike in usage, we will cover the cost of starting from them. So I think we are covering that, and if we do consider that there's no use, then we can sort that out.
Okay, right. I think enough discussion has been had on that. I think you've got all the information you need in order to take that forward. In which case, then let's move on to 2647 financial matters. 264701 to approve bank reconciliation and balance sheet and budget for June 26. Monthly bank balances, I'm not going to read them out, you can see them all there. Do I need a proposal for this? In which case I'm prepared to propose it. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Chesser. All those in favour? Thank you very much. 264702, payments for June 2026. The proposition is that the schedule of payments for June 2026 is presented at this item are paid up, and that all related documentation and checks are signed off. I will propose that.
can I just quickly mention, there was just one that was changed today. It was an invoice for £216, but there was a credit note, so that's now been reduced to £72. But it has been updated in here as well.
Oh, okay. Well, possibly not in the version I saw, but anyway, let's not worry about that. Depends on I downloaded it. So with that qualification, I still propose it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Warrior, I think, or you ask your question? No. Right, all those in favour? Thank you very much. 264703 to approve quote to decorate windows, doors, gates, and ceiling outfit at the courthouse. Need to draw funds from general reserves. Now, before we say anything about this, unless John wants to say, when this was discussed at estates, it was seen as somewhat of an urgency. But I think the proposal was to also include, and again, if you look at the quotation, that may be where there's some confusion about it, the notice board outside of QVH. Because a notice board is OTC property, not QVH property. And so we cannot make decisions about QVH, but we can make decisions about the notice board.
It has to be separated as the next item.
Oh, sorry, I'm an idiot. I'm not reading my agenda correctly. Sorry about that. In which case, then, ignore what I just said. So the quote is just to, first of all, decorate the windows, etc. of the courthouse. Anybody wants to say anything about that?
I think it's not a new proposal. I think this is the thing that's been going on for.
Well,
You can't make a new proposal because the original proposal was for a £1,600 spend.
Yeah.
This new proposal is for 3,100 plus the cost of the notice boards, so it's a high proposal. We are supposed to be, I'm casting no aspersion, but it's taken this long to get agreement, so I don't know whether we'll get the money back, or even if we'll get the money back, this matter having been agreed by the previous contractor. So I think the proposal has to be for the full cost of 13,470.
Yes, but I'm just going to say half the work's been done, so it's sort of been left in the limbo. It's not like,
It needs to be done.
it's not
It
like,
needs to be done.
yeah.
And it needs to be done during the heat of the summer. Right. So we have that in front of us. Do I have a proposer for it? Councillor Wade, do I have a second for it? Councillor Courtenay, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Sorry for confusing you earlier on. It does help if I read the agenda before the meeting. So the next agenda item is to approve transfer of funds to general reserves to pay for external decoration of notice boards, which you'll see as part of a wider quote. And I did actually look at it in case you're on. It is
It's actually only
£370
£370.
plus VAT.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a little bit more than that, to be honest. That's it's,
Does that mean that we have to take it from general reserves? Or,
well,
and is it? John, we don't have an estates meeting now. We want it done, presumably again before September. So, any questions about this? And then let's move on to the proposition.
So I wasn't sure that the notice boards were part of the original quote that we're trying to get finished as part of the thing that we just agreed. And if they weren't, having looked at the notice boards, whilst they need painting, they are not as urgent as finishing the QBH work. So I personally would be against releasing from reserves and doing this as an emergency because I'm not convinced that it is. I think it should be part of the 5-year plan for next year.
Okay. John, you've got your hand up? Or is that?
It is, I disagree with that. It's been outstanding for 18 months or more since we said it down. I think it just looked messy outside the facility, which we're hoping will be more used. And I think it just gives a general air of decline. So we can vote it. If it fails, fine. If it passes, fine.
Councillor Adams.
Independently of James looking at it, I looked at it as well, so it came up. And again, as part of this 5-year plan, I'm very keen not to be doing things that are not budgeted unless they're absolutely essential. The courthouse stuff and all that previous, it's half painted, and we'll have to spend twice as much to get it, maybe more, where it is. But this, it doesn't look great. I'll give it that, John. It doesn't look great, but there's a lot of things in town that don't look great. So we could do a new notice board on the same basis and new bins in certain places, all sorts. But for me personally, I'd rather put it in the budget process and get it done.
Again, in case you haven't read your minutes, and again, we haven't approved these minutes yet, but the minutes of the last estate meeting does actually say it was agreed to a revised quote should be obtained to cover the railing skates and notice forms if you get approval.
And they have been obtained, but since are being looked and therefore settled.
But again, nothing in that minute says it
Oh,
was
I
agreed that the
I
states.
appreciate it, but my concern is that we're rehearsing a discussion that perhaps should have happened in the States. But Councillor Chapel.
I agree with Councillor Wade. I think we should get it done. The amount involved compared to our overall budget is absolutely minuscule. And if it makes the building more attractive, the chances are it will improve the marketability of the thing. And for a very modest investment, we should just get on.
So, can I suggest that you, John, make a proposal that we can then vote on?
So my proposal is that we include the tentative notice boards outside the bid, as had already been agreed was necessary 18 months ago. That's my proposal.
Do I have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Chapel. All those people in favour of that proposal? All those against the proposal? Any abstentions? Sorry. You're abstaining or objecting? Abstaining. Did you get that?
Yep.
So, one abstention, one objection.
I'm for.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. We are now at 26:47:05 to approve quote to repair the play equipment and agree to take £5,340 from the general reserves. Again, I'm actually going to ask maybe James, as chair of the Estates Committee, do you want to say anything in relation to this coming to full council, since again it's come via estates?
So this has come to full council because in trying to move towards planned maintenance only, the ad hoc repairs budget was slashed. Let's be clear about that. And it has emerged that from the British engineering report for this year that more work than was hoped for needs to happen, and thus we need to come to full council to get the release to achieve it. Next year, I hope not to be in this situation because the 5-year plan for next year is comprehensive.
Okay. Again, in order to try and speed things up, because we still have a number of things on the agenda, would you like to formally make a proposal? I'd like to. So you're effectively proposing what it says here. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Chester, all those in favour? Unanimous? When the town clerk comes back. So, I am going to move on, despite the fact that the town clerk has slightly disappeared. So 26:47:06, we have talked about this already. What I would like to propose is that this agenda item is moved to any other matters. So it basically goes at the end of the agenda where we will be in camera. That is my proposal. On the grounds that, despite what happened in the States, as far as I'm concerned, all discussion of meetings has always happened at full council in the camera.
I think when they expect the start to come back.
Yeah. But let's maybe take David first.
Well,
He may put us
I was
right.
going to second it, and just to explain why. it's likely that the discussion, whilst being specific to the food bank, in fact, will be a general application. And disclosing, as it were, publicly policies that we might choose to adopt in relation to future leases would not inevitably be in the best interests of the council.
Which is why I think it's non-free done.
So the proposal would be to go into closed session to have a discussion about principle, and then to go into open session to ultimately vote on whether or not or what these terms offer.
Yes.
Indeed.
I think it's correct.
So that is my proposal. Do I have a seconder? I think Councillor Chapel. All those in favour of that? Yes, you've already raised your interest. So I didn't quite see the hands there. I think that's accepted. Obviously, you're abstaining, Mike. So,
I'm fine with the comment.
I'm sorry, so just to bring you up to date, we voted to approve 05
Okay, thank you.
unanimously. So that then takes us to 2648, the speed report. That was also part of the clerk's report as well.
Does anyone understand about the food bank discussion?
Have you've
Sorry, did you not catch that? We're going to move it to in-camera discussion.
what the plague?
Well, food bank next item.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, I was going to ask you whether you were going to do that. It's all right, but the play equipment that's been approved, yeah, with one abstention.
Well, because
That's unanimous.
it was unanimous.
In fact, the abstention was Councillor Adams in relation to anything to do with the food bank.
It's not.
Oh, right.
Sorry, actually, sorry, Ian, that was nothing to speak of.
No, it's just.
So, any questions on that, all you can answer is receive it, we have to receive it, in which case, let's move to planning matters.
Sorry, Max, one thing, just to reassert that Speedwatch is now operating, and it's nice the actual speed drops by, but also to reassert a request made in April, they get things moving.
They have moved.
Lovely.
They've been moved, yeah.
I noticed it the day we came across the bridge,
Mhm.
or it flashed. Well, just that slow down. I thought I don't have to.
Okay, 2649 planning matters, 4901 received the minutes for the meeting held on 23rd of June 2026. David, anything you wish to say in relation to this?
Unfortunately, yes. You will notice that one of the items was to review the terms of reference recommendation of full council. You'll also notice that for whatever reason, it never quite made it onto the agenda. However, there may be a further issue, inasmuch as our terms of reference allow the chair of the committee, in the event that a meeting is not ordered, to draft responses to consultations. And we've been doing that for some time. And I think it's worked pretty well until relatively recently, when in relation to a particular application, I was forced to use that delegated power, did err on what I might call the side of caution, and said, I'm going to put it as an objection on the basis that if the committee subsequently decided that it wasn't happy with it, it could really withdraw the objection, notify LNC, and we could proceed. We can't really go the opposite direction. However, this has led to the clerk looking into this because there were mutterings about legal action and all sorts. And it may be that we can't do it in quite that way, which of course would mean that we'd have to review the terms of reference. from what I was suggesting to the clerk, but we haven't actually managed to have a conversation yet, so we'll have it now, is whether the terms of reference could say that the chair is given authority to make an indication to the clerk of a response, so that it's the clerk who actually makes it, because that appears to make it legitimate. If the clerk then chose to not follow the chair, which he or she would be perfectly entitled to do, fine. But on the other hand, I suspect the reality is that if a chair of planning said we should object or not object to what have you, the clerk would almost certainly, I anticipate, follow what is said. And I think that gets us around the difficulty. Because the only alternative is either you don't get a consultative response at all, or if feasible, you might have to convene an emergency meeting. But if that's not feasible, you're back to not getting a response at all, and that simply isn't good enough in my view.
I looked into this a lot and had a lot of conversations with Sarah and with Lisa, and it's absolutely, the rule is the only person that can submit under delegated powers a response is an officer and not a councillor. So you, in your terms of reference, you can't, that's what you put. But how behind the scenes that happens with a conversation with across, you know, an email exchange across the planning committee, a conversation with the chair of that committee, that's fine, but you just don't write that down anywhere.
So the shorthand to that is that on the next planning agenda, we will have to put the terms of reference back on again. We'll change them and we'll adopt a new policy under which these matters are dealt with by the clerk, and we'll find ways of making it work.
Yeah.
In which case, I'm going to probably end that there. I think we've aired the issue. We have a pragmatic solution. So let's wait for that solution to be put in place. Thank you for that. Any other questions to David on the minutes? In which case, I'll otherwise move on to the Estates Management Committee. Meeting held on the 7th of July. Again, we're here to receive the minutes. James, any observations you want to make?
Well, I think the key piece of news for the whole council is that the early indications from the survey on the courthouse are that there is some damage to the roof, that the advice is within the next 12 months we should re-roof the roof. So mitigations can be put in place in the short term to prevent it getting worse. The first pass of the total cost to the council of maintenance works on the courthouse for the next 5 years is in the region of £250,000. So don't be surprised when you see in the budget round the beginnings of that working through.
So, let me just respond to that. If you look at the minutes, you'll see that under EN 263502, the chair did indeed make a proposal that a proposal come here in order to release from reserves up to 100,000. That was voted upon 2 in favour, 3 against. So that was indeed not agreed at the Estates Committee. Clearly, the concern about the roof is a serious one. It will clearly cost us a lot of money. We don't know how much money yet because we haven't had quotes. And I think there was concern over not having support of why 3 people voted against that proposal. I have, in my position as mayor, obviously I'm very concerned of any liability on OTC should something fall off that roof and hit a member of the public, which I think is one of the key things that James was concerned about when he made that proposal. As I say, we're not here to discuss that proposal. That proposal is not in front of us. What I have done is had a conversation with the author of that report, Paul Goldsmith, and he basically said there is in fact a workaround, and that is that in order to get this done without having to get the council to approve a drawdown of an unknown 6-figure sum, a roofer, and he suggested somebody called Danny, who has done work for us before, can simply do some work over the summer that will fix any tiles that requested of a 6-figure sum. The town clerk wished to do so, but action for that to happen. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what are the limits?
It's
in terms of what
£3,000.
Clerk can do to deal with an emergency situation.
Well, I can only spend up to £3,000.
Yeah, and this would be,
So
Paul Goldsmith said it would be well
within
under,
that figure,
yes,
so
it would be within that budget.
that's reassuring.
So hopefully we'll have a workaround over the concerns that James raised quite rightly in the meeting. There's not a proposal, actually we don't need to have a discussion or proposal on that. I'm just drawing it to people's attention that we hopefully get resolved that concern. Any other questions to James or any other issues you want to make, James? In which case, John?
I was just a bit concerned earlier on this meeting when the chair indicated that the minutes will not be correct. Is there a challenge in the minutes? Or just me stating that they have been approved, so they should be relied on, or what?
I was merely stating that they have not returned to the Estates Management Committee for approval.
But there's no challenge to the veracity of the minutes.
No.
Okay, they are here for information. We've received them. Thank you very much. Now let's turn our attention to 51, Nottingham Committee Communications Working Party. To receive the minutes, first of all, for the meeting on the 16th of June. Ian, anything you wish to say?
Not really. I think we did a verbal report at the council meeting on the 16th of June on the results of that meeting. Just one area I want to set the place informatics information came back on the Vintage Festival, and it showed that we had just under 5,000 visitors on that Saturday to the Vintage Festival, which is more than double our normal amount of people coming in on a typical Saturday. So I think that was seen as being a success, and certainly the feedback we're getting from retailers in town had a very, very that was the main thing.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions to you on those minutes? If not, let's move on to the next agenda item 2651.2, which is an update of the refresh of our annual website again.
Yeah, just a very quick update. As you know, we're part of the it's sort of a refresh of the existing Annual website to make it a little bit more modern, transfer it and make it a slightly better platform. We're using Cuttlefish to do this, which is the same people who currently run our other website, predominantly is the Town Council website. So this is what we're looking at now. Currently, it's going down the pathways that we looked at and said, if you're a visitor, come visit us. If you're living in Oundle, go here. And it is very much going to those areas. So if you come visit us, that will click and go directly into sections about the attractions and what you can do in Oundle, etc. One of the thing is, I have all the mantra that websites are living and breathing things. So these images will start changing. For instance, on this particular illustration, we've got the chapel, but coming up into the Christmas market, we'd have something like a Christmas market sign. We'd have, because this is the first indication, anybody coming on the website for Love Animal, this is the first impression again of the town. So we can't be static, it has to change and look. But this is the look. We are finalizing the change and upload of the various elements from what I call the older site to the newer site. We're almost done on that. And as soon as that's done, I think we can push it on.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions to Ian on that, Councillor Chapel?
It's a more general thing, really. There seems to be a huge amount of confusion about whether Love Oundle is or isn't town council, Love Oundle, or whoever. Somewhere, can we try and make that clearer to people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good question, because I get confused a bit there as well. In this site, and we're not, well, probably the last thing we'll populate is an events calendar. In that events calendar, it will detail what events are going on every time we go out for over a year. In that, it will actually state what the event is and who's organising that event. So there should be some clarity on that.
Okay, thank you very much. We've just, as I said, that was purely for info. If I make one suggestion, the suggestion is that. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to add a bit in that I have read today.
So in relation to that, which is the suggestion I was going to make, is that I think it would be worthwhile at some stage you actually have a semi-public, you might like to invite various groups, including councillors, to go through a prototype in order to get feedback and suggestions and what have you, in order to address some of these issues. That's just a suggestion, and the meeting, your committee is whether they wish to take that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think at the moment what we're doing is marketing committees go through it very, very thoroughly, push it live, then we will always have a calendar. So those types of feedback are already being factored in, and there will be ongoing factoring as we move forward.
Very quickly, John.
Very quickly, approval of the decision making is by the Marketing Committee. So it should be made clear to anybody who wants to have an opinion, they can have an opinion, but they're not allowed to decide.
Yeah.
The Marketing Committee is the decision. Anything else is an input only.
Which is why I said a suggestion. Thank you. Let's move on, because we've still got quite a bit to cover, and only half an hour to do it in. 2652, correspondence, nothing to report. I'm now going to move to any other matters to report only, and I'll go around the table as usual.
There are going to be
Your mouse is flashing, by the way.
What is?
Your mouse is flashing red.
there are going to be traffic lights on the Liverpool Road line. So I would go south road go shopping.
Okay, what date is that?
30th of July to the 9th of August. Going to one network is the weekend.
Okay, thank you for that information. The other Ian too. Ian Q. James, David. Town hall, Emma?
No, I haven't. No.
Right, in which case then, what I would now like to do is propose that in view of the specific special and confidential nature of business about to be transacted in advisable in the public interest, that the public be temporarily excluded, and that they are instructed to withdraw under Standing Order 3C. That is my proposal. Do I have a second on that? I think I saw you first, David. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Tell us when we close, Emma.